The Holy Book, Sefer Kav Hayashar, Episode 9. Why is it that the leaders of the Jewish people are called Nesiim, elevated ones? It is to indicate that as long as a leader merits conducting himself with fear of heaven, he is elevated higher and higher, and in the next world his soul is bound up in the bonds of life in the highest sanctity. But if he does not act properly, he is reckoned among the Nesiim Mevurach, the clouds and wind. Mishlei 25.14. Just as a cloud dissipates and the wind passes by never to return, so too a communal leader who does not act as a Jewish leader should, by failing to bear the community's burden or behaving with arrogance, passes from this world abruptly and his descendants are forgotten. Many communal leaders have fallen into this trap due to pride and arrogance. They intimidate the community unnecessarily and indulge and pamper themselves. They exempt themselves from communal taxes, making life easier for themselves but harder for others. They claim first pick of every honor and distinction. Their faces glow from plenty, and they are strong and healthy through the satisfaction of their desire. They have no share in the toil of other men, nor are they afflicted along with the other men. Tehillim 73.5. The result is that the congregation of Hashem, the seeds of Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, are crushed and humbled and rendered naked, harried and barefoot by the levies that the tax collectors and public officials impose on them. They callously barge into houses and grab whatever they find. It is fitting in their eyes that the heads of the household should be naked and penniless, so they take even their clothing, even their talis and kittel, selling them for a pittance. They leave the members of the household with nothing other than the straw on their beds, shivering from the cold and rain, all of them weeping, husband, wife, and children, one in this corner and one in another. If only the leader would shoulder part of the tax burden himself, it would weigh less heavily upon the middle class and the poor. Yet there is another iniquity that is even worse than this. Many leaders eat and drink on the community's account, taking from its coffers for the dowries of their sons and daughters, and for wedding gifts for their sons and daughters-in-law. All of this from the hard-earned income of their Jewish brothers. Regarding them, a heavenly voice proclaims, "This one has consumed the blood and flesh of the holy people Israel, stealing from the poor, the orphans, and the widowed." Then the voice heaps upon them curses. In addition, their prayers are not heard. May heaven spare us their fate. Therefore, let the man who has been appointed to a position of communal leadership behave with mercy and not with callousness, especially towards those broken vessels, the poor and the destitute. For the Holy One, blessed is he, desires their honor, and the indictments against the community on their behalf in heaven bring in their wake terrible decrees. Heaven forbid. It is relating in the writings of the Ari, Zecher Levracha, that one time he and his disciples were sitting in the field in which the prophet Hosea ben Beri was buried. The Ari Zecher Levracha delivered a lecture in the esoteric wisdom of the Torah. Suddenly, in the middle of the lecture, the Ari Zecher Levracha said, "In the name of Hashem, quickly gather tzedakah from among yourselves, that we may send the money to a certain poor man who lives nearby in such and such a place. His name is Rabbi Yaakov Altors, and he is sitting and weeping, complaining to heaven about his poverty. His voice is ascending on high, piercing all the firmaments and entering into the innermost chambers. As a result, the Holy One, blessed is He, filled with wrath against the entire city for not taking pity upon him. In fact, a proclamation has just been issued throughout all the firmaments that a massive plague of locusts is to descend upon all the environs of Tzfas. It will devour all the crops, that which is heaped into piles, and that which still stands in the fields, and even the olive orchards. Therefore, let us quickly send him tzedakah. Perhaps with God's help, we can still annul the decree. Immediately, each one gave his donation, which the Ari Zecher Levracha then handed to his disciple, Rabbi Yitzchak HaKohen, instructed him to go quickly to the home of Rabbi Yaakov. Rabbi Yitzchak did as he was told, and when he arrived, he found Rabbi Yaakov weeping and pleading at the entrance of the house. Rabbi Yitzchak inquired, "Rabbi, why are you crying?" Rabbi Yaakov answered that the water barrel had broken, and he did not have so much as a penny with which to replace it. In his great distress over his poverty and want, he was at loss what to do. Rabbi Yitzchak immediately delivered to him the funds, whereupon Rabbi Yaakov was filled with joy, showering upon him blessings. When Rabbi Yitzchak returned to the master, the Ari Zecher Levracha, he informed him the decree has been annulled, and there is no more need for concern. While they were still speaking, a mighty wind began blowing, bearing with it a swarm of locusts of unfathomable proportions. Therefore, disciples were thrown into confusion, but the Ari Zecher Levracha calmed them. Do not be afraid. The decree has already been annulled. And so it was. The entire swarm continued on until it reached the ocean, where all of them drowned. Not a single locust remained in the entire country. This should be a warning to all Israel to attend carefully to the needs of the poor and the indigent, who are known as broken vessels. For the Holy One, blessed is He, takes up lodgings with them, causing His presence to dwell among them. Our rabbis have taught, whoever gives a coin to a poor man is blessed with 6 blessings, and one who appeases with words is blessed with 11 blessings. Baba Basra 9b. The heart of the poor man sighs continually over his inability to obtain his desires, because he would also like to obtain his share of goodness, yet it remains beyond his grasp. In the season of cold and chill, the rich man sits like a prince in a well-built winter home. Meanwhile, not only is the poor man filled with holes, he does not even have the wherewithal to purchase firewood, so that he is unable to warm himself properly. The bitter cold shatters his body and spirit, as well as those of his entire household. When it rains, the drops fall upon his neck. The poor man lives in distress day and night, all the days of his life. He and his household sigh continually, yet they accept all their afflictions with love. When Shabbos and Yontif arrive, it is time to take delight in food and drink and clean coverings. The poor man lacks even bread. Nevertheless, he gives praise and thanks. The rich man marries his sons and daughters off to whoever he chooses, but the poor man, because of his lack of means, must accept whatever match he can find. Often, he marries his daughter to an ignoramus utterly lacking in Torah and fear of heaven, which is a tantamount to binding her before a lion. Yet, he is unable to save her from him. He simply looks on as his ignorant son-in-law abuses his daughter day after day, causing her great suffering. Who can record all the bitterness and anguish endured by the poor man? But if a poor man accepts his poverty with love and affection, the fires of Gehenna have no dominion over him. Eruvim 41b. And his rewards are very great. For the one who is poor in this world is considered as if dead. Nedarim 64b. I admonish you, therefore, that whoever gives money to a poor man in his hour of need should do so in a way that does not cause him harm. Heaven forbid, for his poverty causes him enough suffering, as we have already explained. Rather, one must give him privately. And if one does a gift in public, one must accompany it with the words that will put his heart at ease. Whenever one offers hospitality to a wayfarer, one must do so with a pleasant countenance. Chazal tells us, welcoming guests is greater than greeting the Shekhinah. Shabbos 127a. It is a mitzvah of great importance, for whoever gives bread to a poor man weakens the power of 480 bands of destroying. Always on the lookout for accusations to make against the Jewish people. To return to our topic, let the leaders be warned that they must not impose excessive fear upon the community, and they must contribute their share of taxes like any other citizen. They must not be guilty of favoritism, lightening the burden of the rich and their kin while increasing that of the poor and needy. If they will do these things, they will flourish, meriting offspring and the length of days.